Hi, my name's Christy, and I am a mom of two beautiful daughters, 6 and 4. And I'm here to demonstrate what it is like to actually compost at home in an urban environment in the city. Totally doable, but I'm going to prepare my daughter's snacks for the next day and kind of talk you through what I actually do to actually get the materials composted. So I've got a couple of strawberries here. These tops I will actually put into my kitchen counter compost pot, which I keep in the refrigerator. Get that. There's some other items in here that have been sitting around that my daughters have not eaten and likely will not. That's just some age-old oranges and some pretty shriveled up grapes. Great for composting, particularly the grapes. So we got the strawberry tops we'll throw in there, and then the remains of the bell pepper. And the reason why I put them in the refrigerator is because if this is left out too long, then it'll likely attract the fruit flies. And it's to be expected, and it's totally natural and normal. But one way to reduce that is to cap it, put it in the refrigerator, and then when you're ready, to take it out to your compost bin in the back, then it's all contained and your kitchen is nice and free and clear of the fruit flies. Taking this out to the compost bin, I'm ready to do that. But I also have a couple of other items that are worth noting. This sandwich came back from my daughter's lunch yesterday. Full sandwich, only had like maybe a nibble out of there, but she will likely not eat it, so I'm going to have to just end up throwing away or eating it myself, which I may do, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I wanted to talk about how I actually get rid of this or dispose of it. So what we've got in here is peanut butter and some bread. Now the peanut butter has a lot of protein in it. It's a high protein type of food. And when you're composting in your backyard, it's highly discouraged to put in any kind of high protein foods like meats and bones and cheeses, any kind of dairy products, including peanut butter. So the bread's contaminated with it. I likely couldn't put this in my backyard. But what I could do, and what I do at home, is I have set up a little spot down here for compostables that I will send out for offsite composting. This will get sent to a commercial composting facility. So I will take my sandwiches and I'll put them in that trash can. The wax paper is also compostable, but it is also soiled with the peanut butter. And again, we want to minimize as much as we can in our backyard because we don't want to attract those animals and vectors. So I'm going to put this in the commercial composting compost pile. There's also another food item in here left over from breakfast, and we normally have cottage cheese and applesauce, and I guess I gave them a little bit too much. And of course it is a dairy item, so animals would actually love this and they can smell it from miles away. So what I would do with this is I would put it in my commercial composting compost collection. And one little nice trick for foods that have, kind of liquid content like the applesauce and the cottage cheese, I use one of these milk containers. It's cardboard and it's wax lined, perfectly compostable. But because of the bulk, I probably wouldn't put it in my backyard, or else I'd have to stand there and tear it down into smaller pieces. Commercial composting, this will just get run through a chipper grinder and take care of itself. So I'll put this stuff right into the carton, okay, and it should contain it pretty well. And I can actually close it still back off, to minimize the fruit flies as well. Okay, so that goes there. Cleared out all my food items. I've got my handy dandy compost bowl. Oh, and there's some other food items that ended up on the floor. Some Cheerios and some raisins, which all of us moms are accustomed to. So I'm just going to clean this up and add this to my compost pile in the back. There's an apple core in there as well. And then some other, the the twigs or the branch from the grapes. I've got all this that's going to go into the compost bin. That's it. So I like to think of our little place of living. We're in a pretty typical residential neighborhood. There's nothing extravagant about it. You know, we've got neighbors to the left, right of us. Pretty typical community or neighborhood. And this is, you know, this practice of composting is totally doable. We've selected a fairly sunny spot when the sun is actually the greatest heat, or the hottest in the afternoon, from about 12 o'clock on. That my compost bin is getting heated and it's cooking. And you only need it for a couple of hours a day. In other climates, you need more, in other climates less, but for us that was the more ideal spot for us. We have complete access to it. We can work around it. We can bring in the wheelbarrow once we've harvested the compost from the bottom, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But let me just show you the addition. So we've got our food, which is a primary ingredient to the compost bin. And what I end up doing is just making a little hole in the bin at the very top so that I have enough on the sides to cover it up. And I will dump it right in the middle of it, like that, and then cover it up. And try to smush it down. When I'm poking the holes, it's actually aerating it. I'm putting air inside the pile, and that's very important for decomposition, for biodegradation. The microbes need to breathe, they need the air. There's a lot of well, this is probably now 5 days old grass clippings from our yard. This is one of the more important ingredients as well, because the grass clippings have the moisture content and the nitrogen. The dried leaves that you see here from our lovely orange trees is the brown waste. It has the carbon that's needed for the pile, and then the microbes and the worms will come up through the bottom and go to work on consuming the mass. So now we just let it sit, cover it up, and wait a couple months. But actually, it's actually not that bad of a wait, because right now I do have some harvestable compost at the very bottom, which I'll show you. And once I take that compost out, that compost soil, and I sprinkle it on my lawn to help the grass grow even greener, then the pile will actually settle, and I can start adding more layers of food and green grass clippings and brown waste and start that cycle all over again. So I'm going to open it up just to give you an idea of what my compost, the end result would be after a couple of months. And you can see right down here below, that's a really good color of compost, dark in nature, right in there. So I would come in and I would take out with a shovel, I'd take a shovel full out and fill my wheelbarrow up with it, and then scatter it on my lawn. I needed more green grass clippings because the pile was just too dry, so I needed more moisture and more green waste. So I just asked my neighbor, can I have his that he had put out on the curbside that they were picking up. He's like, yeah, sure. Well, I had too much of it, so I actually was able to fill my compost bin, but I didn't want to put it out back on the curbside, so I decided I was just going to make another makeshift compost pile right next to it. It's on bare ground, and it's just basically cooking right now. I haven't added food to it, but it has the brown waste, it has the grass clippings, and already you can see look at the brown. It's already been decomposing. The brown waste right in there. This is going to take, a couple of months for it to look like, this brown soil.